The silence in space was broken only by the soft humming of dying systems aboard the Harmony's song. "Captain?" Eltar pressed his long blue fingers against the warm wall of the ship and felt its pain through his skin.
Oh.
The living vessel that had been his home for 3 years was slowly failing. There was nothing he could do to save it. The ship had been beautiful once. Its curved walls pulsed with a gentle purple light, and its biosystems sang sweet melodies as they worked. The Zilani had grown their ships from special seeds, nurturing them like children until they became partners in exploring the stars. But now the songs had turned to weak whispers, and the walls felt cold under his touch. Veltar walked through the main corridor, his bare feet silent on the soft floor. The other 11 members of his crew sat in the meditation chamber, holding hands and sharing their emotions through their natural connection. Their large silver eyes were closed, and their translucent skin glowed faintly as they tried to comfort each other. 3 days ago, everything had been perfect. They were studying strange energy readings near a dead star system when the asteroid field appeared without warning. The rocks had come from nowhere, moving too fast for their gentle ship to avoid. The impact had torn through the living hull, like claws through flesh, damaging systems that had taken decades to grow. The Harmony's song was a research vessel. Built for studying the peaceful mysteries of space, it had no weapons, no armor, no way to protect itself from the harsh realities of the void. The Zilani were explorers and scientists, not warriors. They had survived for thousands of years by being careful, by avoiding danger, by working with other species instead of fighting them, but now their caution had failed them. The ship's healing systems, so good at fixing small problems, could not handle the massive damage. The bioorganic processors that cleaned their air were struggling. The living walls that protected them from space were slowly dying. Soon there would be nothing left but cold metal bones drifting in the darkness. Veltar returned to the bridge, where his second-in-command, Kiravel, was monitoring their failing systems. She looked up at him with worry in her silver eyes. Her skin, normally a healthy blue-green, had turned pale with stress. "Captain," she said softly, "the main life support system is down to 30%. The secondary systems are trying to compensate, but they're not strong enough. We have maybe 2 days before the air becomes too thin to breathe." Veltar nodded sadly. He had known this moment would come. The Harmony song was dying, and they were dying with it. Less help came soon. The crew that had spent years together, exploring the wonders of the galaxy, would become just another ghost ship lost in the void. "What about the distress beacon?" he asked. "Still transmitting on all frequencies," Kiravel replied. "But we're 3 days from the nearest trade route. Even if someone picks up our signal, they would need time to reach us." The captain sat down in his command chair, feeling the ship's heartbeat through the living material. It was weak and irregular, like an old friend taking his last breaths. The Zilani had never been good at accepting death. Their whole culture was built around growth, healing, and nurturing life in all its forms. The idea of simply giving up felt wrong. "Send the signal again," Veltar said. "All frequencies, maximum power. Tell them we're Zilani scientists in need of immediate assistance. Include our exact coordinates and the nature of our emergency." Kiravel. Fingers danced over the biocontrols, sending their plea into the vast emptiness of space. The signal would travel at light speed in all directions, carrying their desperate words to anyone who might be listening. The Zilani were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful people who helped others without asking for anything in return. Surely someone would come to their aid. The most likely rescuers would be the Korthoni, a species of skilled traders who had ships throughout this region of space. They were practical people who valued profit above all else, but they also honored their contracts and treaties. The Zilani had good relations with them, and had helped Korthani colonies with biological problems in the past. There was also a chance the Nexori might respond. They were an advanced species with powerful technology, though they tended to be cold and calculating in their dealings with others. Still, they respected the Zilani's scientific achievements and might send help out of professional courtesy. What Belalter did not expect was any response from the humans, the newest species to join. Galactic civilization was still largely unknown. They had appeared just 50 years ago, emerging from a small blue world on the edge of explored space. Their planet was classified as a death world in the galactic databases, a place where life existed in constant struggle against impossible odds. Most civilized species avoided death worlds. The conditions that created such places, extreme weather, dangerous predators, deadly diseases, also created inhabitants that were considered unstable and violent. The few species that had evolved on such worlds were usually aggressive, unpredictable, and best left alone. The humans seemed to fit this pattern perfectly. They came from a world covered in vast oceans that could swallow ships whole, continents that shook with earthquakes, and weather systems that could level entire cities. Their bodies were built for combat, with forward-facing eyes like predators, strong muscles for fighting, and visible teeth for tearing flesh. Even worse, human history was filled with endless wars between their own kind. They had weapons that could destroy entire planets, and had actually used them against each other. Their literature and entertainment were full of violence, conflict, and destruction. They seemed to enjoy imagining ways to fight and kill even. In their fictional stories, the Galactic Council had classified humans as extreme caution recommended after their first contact attempts. Most species simply avoided human space entirely, preferring to trade with more predictable partners. The few interactions that had occurred were formal and brief, conducted through intermediaries and with heavy security present. So when Veltar sent out his distress call, he never imagined it would reach human ears, or that any human would care about the fate of a dying Zilani ship. Deathworlders had their own problems to worry about. They were too violent and selfish to risk their lives for strangers, especially delicate aliens they barely knew. But 47 light-years away, in a region of space that most species considered too dangerous to explore, the human ship New Frontier was conducting a routine patrol along the edge of their territory. Commander Jake Murphy, a tall man with brown hair and kind eyes, was reviewing the day's reports when his communications officer looked up from her station. Sir Lieutenant Lisa Park said, "I'm picking up a distress signal. It's coming from outside our patrol area, but it's definitely a call for help." Murphy moved to her station and listened to the translated message. The computer had converted the alien harmonics into words he could understand, but the emotion behind them came through clearly. These people were scared and running out of time. "Zilani research vessel," he said thoughtfully. "I've heard of them. Peaceful species. Good reputation. What's their situation? Hull breach? Life support failing? No way to repair the damage themselves," Park replied. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, hoping someone will pick up their signal." The tactical officer, Lieutenant Ben Hayes, looked up from his console. "Sir, that's pretty far from our assigned patrol route. Command might not approve of us responding to alien distress calls in neutral space." Murphy studied the star charts, calculating distances and travel times. The Zilani ship was in trouble right now, and every hour they waited meant less chance of the aliens surviving. Their species might hear the call and respond, but they might not. And even if they did, would they arrive in time? "Set course for those coordinates," Murphy ordered. "Maximum speed, and send a message to the Zilani ship. Tell them help is on the way." As the New Frontier changed direction and jumped to faster than light speed, none of the humans aboard realized they were about to challenge everything the galaxy believed about Deathworlders. They were simply doing what felt right, answering a call for help from people in trouble. It was the most human thing they could have done. Captain Veltar felt the ship's weak pulse under his hands as he stood on the bridge of the Dying Harmony's song. 2 days had passed since they sent their distress call. The air was getting thinner with each passing hour. His crew was still alive, but barely. They had gathered in the central chamber, using their shared connection to keep each other calm as death approached. Then something impossible happened. Captain Kiravel called out, her voice weak but excited. "Detecting a ship approaching our position. It's moving very fast." Veltar rushed to the sensor station, his heart beating faster. Through the ship's biosensors, he could see a vessel dropping out of faster-than-light travel just a few thousand kilometers away. The ship was nothing like any design he had ever seen before. where Zilani vessels were grown from living materials. With smooth, curved lines that flowed like water, the ship was built from metal and composites. Its hull was angular and hard, covered with weapon mounts and sensor arrays. It looked more like a weapon than a rescue vessel. "What species?" Veltar asked, though part of him already feared the answer. Kiravel checked the ship's database, comparing the vessel's design to known configurations. Her skin turned even paler as the results appeared on the bio screen.
"Human,"
she whispered. The words sent a chill through the bridge crew. Humans were Deathworlders, violent and unpredictable. Every civilized species knew to avoid them. Were they doing here? Had they come to help? Or were they here for some darker purpose? "They're signaling us," the communications officer reported. "Audio transmission in standard Galactic, okay?" Veltar took a deep breath and nodded. Whatever the humans wanted, his crew was in no position to refuse. Put it through. A deep voice filled the bridge, speaking words in the harsh tones of the human, language that the ship's computer translated into Zilani harmonics. "Zilani Vessel Harmony Song. This is Commander Jake Murphy of the human ship New Frontier. We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance. Please respond if you are able to communicate." The Zilani crew looked at each other, in shock. The humans' words were polite, almost formal. Nothing like the aggressive demands they had expected from a Deathworlder. Veltar activated the communication system. "Commander Murphy, this is Captain Veltar of the Harmony Song. We are grateful for your response, but I must warn you that our situation is very dangerous. Our ship is dying, and our technology is very different from yours. We do not expect you to risk your vessel or your crew for us." There was a pause, then the human voice returned, warmer this time. "Captain Veltar, we didn't come all this way to turn around and leave. We're here to help. Can you give us more details about your situation?" Over the next hour, Veltar explained their problems to the human commander. The living ship had been damaged beyond its ability to heal itself. The biosystems that provided air, water, and power were failing one by one. Traditional mechanical repair methods would not work because the ship was a living organism, not a machine. "I understand," Murphy said when the explanation was complete. "We'd like to send over a small team to assess the situation in person. Would that be acceptable?" The request stunned the Zilani. No civilized species would risk boarding an alien vessel, especially one that was dying. The dangers were too great. The technology, too foreign. Yet this human was volunteering to put his people in harm's way for strangers. Commander Veltar said carefully, "Our ship's environment may not be suitable for your species. The air mixture is different, the gravity is lighter, and our biosystems may react badly to your presence. We'll bring our own life support gear." Murphy replied, "And we'll be very careful not to contaminate your systems. We just need to see what we're dealing with so we can figure out how to help." Veltar looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. This was insane. Humans were supposed to be violent and selfish, caring only for their own kind. They were not supposed to risk themselves for aliens they had never met, but they were also running out of time. In a few more hours, the life support would fail completely, and his crew would suffocate in the cold darkness of space. "Very well, Commander Murphy," Veltar said. "You may send 3 of your people aboard. We will guide them to our docking port." "Thank you, Captain. We'll be over in 30 minutes. As the communication ended, Veltar felt a mix of hope and fear. Hope that maybe somehow these strange Deathworlders could save his ship and crew. Fear that he was making a terrible mistake. That would doom them all. The human shuttle was as angular and mechanical as their main ship. It approached the Harmony Song slowly and carefully, its pilot clearly taking great care not to damage the fragile alien vessel. The docking was gentle, almost tender, as if the human understood they were connecting to a living being rather than just a machine. 3 figures in bulky, environmental suits stepped through the airlock. The first was a woman with short blonde hair visible through her helmet's faceplate. She carried medical equipment and scanning devices. The second was a man with dark skin and calloused hands, loaded down with tools and repair materials. The third was another woman, smaller and younger, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Captain Veltar, the first woman said, her voice coming through a translation device. I'm Dr. Amy Collins, xenobiologist. This is Chief Engineer Ryan Torres and Medic Susan Wright. Thank you for allowing us aboard your ship. Veltar was struck by how polite they were. These Deathworlders, these supposedly violent predators, were speaking to him with the same courtesy he would expect from fellow Zilani. Welcome aboard the Harmony's song, he replied. Though I fear there is little we can show you but a dying vessel. Dr. Collins removed a small scanner from her belt and began taking readings of the surrounding walls. Her eyes widened as she studied the results. This is incredible, she said. Your ship is actually alive. I can detect neural pathways, circulatory systems, even what looks like a primitive consciousness. It's like a vast organism that's been shaped into a spacecraft. That is exactly what it is, Veltar explained. We grow our ships from seed pods, nurturing them for decades until they become our partners in space. But this one has been too badly hurt. The damage is beyond our healing abilities. Engineer Torres was examining the damaged sections with his own instruments. Unlike Dr. Collins, who seemed fascinated by the biological aspects, he was focused on the practical problems of keeping the ship alive. The main issue is systemic failure, he said. Your ship's biological processes are shutting down because the damaged areas can't perform their functions. It's like a person with injured organs. The whole body suffers. Medic Wright was taking air samples and testing the ship's atmosphere. The oxygen levels are dropping fast, she reported. But the biological systems are still trying to process carbon dioxide. If we could support the failing organs while they heal, the ship might recover on its own. Veltar stared at the three humans in amazement. In just a few minutes, they had understood his ship better than most species did after years of study. They were not looking at it as a weird alien artifact, but as a patient that needed help. You actually think you can save the Harmony's song? He asked. Dr. Collins looked up from her scanner. Can't promise anything, Captain. But we've dealt with biological systems before, just not on this scale. The principles should be the same. Report the critical functions, provide the resources for healing, and let the organism do what it's designed to do. The challenge, Torres added, is that our technology and yours are completely different. We use machines, you use living systems, but maybe that's not a problem. Maybe we can make them work together. Over the next few hours, the three humans explored the ship with Veltar and his crew as guides. They asked hundreds of questions about how the biological systems worked, what they needed to survive, and how the Zilani had learned to care for their living vessels. The humans never showed disgust or fear at the organic technology. Instead, they treated it with respect and curiosity, like doctors examining a patient they wanted to help. They touched the walls gently, spoke in quiet voices near the ship's sensory nodes, and even apologized when their equipment made loud noises. Your people are not what we expected, Veltar admitted to Dr. Collins as they stood in the ship's central chamber. What did you expect? She asked. Violence, aggression, selfishness. The Galactic databases classify humans as dangerous death. Worlders who cannot be trusted. Dr. Collins smiled sadly. Suppose we do seem violent compared to most species. Our world was harsh, and we had to be tough to survive. But that doesn't mean we don't care about others. Some of our greatest heroes are people who risked everything to save strangers. Then why do other species fear you? Because they judge us by our worst moments instead of our best ones, Collins replied. They see our weapons and our wars, but they don't see our hospitals and our rescue services. They know we can fight, but they don't know that we'd rather heal. As the human team worked to understand the ship's problems, Veltar began to understand something important. These Deathworlders were not the monsters the galaxy believed them to be. They were people, just like his own crew, trying to do the right thing in a dangerous universe. Maybe, just maybe, they could save the Harmony song after all. Dr. Amy Collins knelt beside one of the damaged wall sections in the Harmony song, her scanner beeping softly as it analyzed the dying tissue. The ship's biomatter felt warm under her gloved hands, but she could sense the weakness in it, like touching someone with a fever. The cellular structure is breaking down, she told Captain Veltar. who stood beside her with obvious worry in his large silver eyes. But the good news is that the basic genetic framework is still intact. This tissue wants to heal itself, it just doesn't have the resources to do it. Engineer Ryan Torres was working nearby, examining the ship's main circulatory system where thick bio cables carried nutrients throughout the vessel. The damage here was severe, with several major pathways completely severed. It's like the ship is bleeding to death internally, he said. The healing nutrients can't reach the damaged areas because the delivery system is broken. If we could provide the right materials, there's no way to get them where they need to go. A medic, Susan Wright, looked up from her atmospheric readings. Captain Veltar, how long does it normally take your ship to heal from minor damage? Small cuts and bruises heal within hours, the Zilani captain replied. Larger injuries might take days or weeks, depending on the severity. But damage like this? He gestured helplessly at the torn walls and broken biosystems. We have never seen anything this bad before. What if we could speed up the process? Collins asked. In human medicine, we sometimes use artificial support systems to help injured organs while they recover. Could we do something similar here? Veltar's translucent skin flickered with confusion. I do not understand. How could your mechanical technology help a living ship? Torres wiped his hands on a cloth and walked over to join the conversation. The way I see it, your ship is like a giant patient with multiple organ failure. The heart is still beating, the brain is still thinking, but the support systems are damaged. We need to create temporary bypasses until the original systems can heal themselves. But our technologies are completely different, protested Kiravel, who had been listening from the doorway. Zilani, biosystems and human machines cannot work. Together, they are like oil and water. Maybe not, Collins said thoughtfully. Biology and technology aren't as different as most people think. They're both just ways of solving problems. A mechanical pump and a biological heart do the same job, just using different methods. Wright suddenly looked up from her medical scanner with excitement. I've got an idea, Captain Veltar. Does your ship's healing process require specific nutrients like vitamins or minerals? Yes, Veltar replied. The ship needs certain organic compounds to rebuild damaged tissue. But our stores were damaged in the accident, and the production organs are not working properly. What if we could provide those nutrients artificially? Wright asked. Human blood plasma contains many of the same basic building blocks of life. With some modifications, we might be able to create a temporary nutrient solution that your ship could use. The suggestion horrified the Zilani crew. Using biological material from one species to heal another was unthinkable. Principle of natural balance they had been taught? That is not possible, Veltar stammered. Oh. The biochemistry would be all wrong. It could poison the ship instead of healing it. Collins was already running calculations on her scanner. Actually, it might work. Carbon-based life forms use remarkably similar chemistry, even across different species. The basic amino acids, proteins, and cellular structures are almost universal. But the risk, Kiravel protested, if we contaminate the ship's systems with alien biology, it could cause a complete immune rejection. The ship could die even faster. Torres nodded seriously. She's right. It is risky. But doing nothing is guaranteed failure. At least this gives us a chance. The three humans worked through the night, developing a plan that would have seemed impossible to any conventional engineer or doctor. They would create hybrid biomechanical systems that combined human technology with Zilani living systems. Torres designed small mechanical pumps that could be surgically attached to the ship's circulatory network. These pumps would push healing nutrients through the damaged pathways, taking over the job of the injured bioorgans until they could recover. Collins worked on modifying human medical supplies to create a nutrient solution that the ship's systems could process safely. She combined human blood plasma with Zilani biocompounds, creating a mixture that could feed the starving tissues. Wright developed injection systems that could deliver the healing solutions directly into the ship's bloodstream. The devices had to be sterile, biocompatible, and gentle enough not to cause additional damage. But the real breakthrough came when they realized they needed Zilani help to make any of this work. We can provide the mechanical support and the nutrients, Collins explained to Veltar. But we don't know how to communicate with your ship. We need you and your crew to guide the healing process. How do you mean? Veltar asked. Your ship is alive, right? It has some kind of consciousness or instinct. We can give it the tools and materials it needs, but you have to tell it how. To use them, you have to sing to it, or touch it, or whatever you do to help it understand. The idea fascinated and frightened the Zilani captain. No one had ever tried to combine alien technology with their bioships before. But as he looked around at his dying vessel and his frightened crew, he realized they had no choice but to try. The first step was installing Torres's mechanical pumps. The engineer worked with incredible care, using micro-tools to connect metal and plastic devices to living tissue. He treated each connection like surgery, sterilizing everything and working as gently as possible. The ship's responding well, he reported as the first pump came online. The biotissue is accepting the mechanical interface. I can see nutrient flows starting to improve in this section. Collins began her first injection of the modified plasma solution. She watched nervously as the alien mixture entered the ship's bloodstream, ready to stop immediately if there were signs of rejection. Instead, the ship's walls began to glow more brightly. The weak purple light that had been fading for days suddenly grew stronger, and the soft humming of the biosystems increased in volume. It's work, Veltar whispered in amazement. The ship is responding to the nutrients. I can feel its strength returning. But the real magic happened when the Zilani crew began to help actively. They placed their hands on the walls near the repair sites and hummed in their natural harmonic language. The ship seemed to listen to their songs, directing its healing processes toward the areas where the humans had provided support. Wright watched in fascination. As the biotissue began to regenerate around the mechanical pumps, slowly growing new pathways to bypass the damaged areas. It's learning to work with our technology, she said. The ship is actually adapting its biology to use our machines. Over the next 36 hours, the humans and Zilani worked together in shifts. Humans monitored the mechanical systems, adjusted nutrient levels, and installed new support devices as needed. The Zilani provided guidance through their empathic connection with the ship, helping it understand how to use the alien assistance. Torres barely slept as he fine-tuned the biomechanical interfaces. Each connection had to be perfect, balancing the needs of living tissue with the requirements of mechanical systems. He found himself thinking of the ship not as a machine to be repaired, but as a patient to be healed. Collins discovered that human and Zilani biochemistry were more compatible than anyone had imagined. With careful adjustments, she was able to create nutrient solutions that the ship's systems could process efficiently. The modified plasma worked even better than the ship's natural healing compounds. Wright became the bridge between human medical knowledge and Zilani biohealing techniques. She learned to read the ship's vital signs through both mechanical instruments and the empathic feedback from the Zilani crew. As the hours passed, something remarkable happened. The ship began to heal not just its damaged systems, but also began growing new structures that incorporated both technologies. Our tissue grew around mechanical pumps, creating hybrid organs that were stronger than either system alone. The Zilani crew watched in wonder as their ship transformed. Where once there had been purely biological systems, now there were living machines that combined the best of both approaches. The ship was becoming something new, something that had never existed before. This is impossible, Kiravel said as she watched mechanical sensors growing directly from the ship's neural tissue. Living systems and machines cannot merge like this. Maybe they couldn't before, Collins replied with a smile. But your ship is learning new possibilities. It's adapting to use our technology as part of its own biology. By the end of the second day, the Harmony's song was not just alive, it was thriving. The hybrid biomechanical systems were working better than anyone had hoped. Air quality had returned to normal, power systems were running at full capacity, the ship's consciousness was stronger than ever. Captain Veltar stood on his bridge, feeling the ship's heartbeat through the walls. But now the rhythm was different, enhanced by the soft humming of mechanical systems that had become part of the ship's song. The news spread through the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days of the Harmony song reaching the nearest space station, every major species had heard about the impossible rescue. A human ship had saved a Zalani vessel using methods that no civilized engineer would have attempted. At the Galactic Council headquarters on the ancient world of Nexus Prime, Counselor Thextar read the official report with growing disbelief. The tall, gray-skinned Vorthok had served on the council for over 2 centuries. And in all that time, he had never seen anything like this. "This cannot be accurate," he said to his aide, a nervous young Nexari named Quintel. "The report claims that humans successfully integrated their mechanical technology with Zalani biosystems. Such a combination is theoretically impossible." Quintel checked the data feeds on his holographic display. "Sir, the report has been verified by 3 independent sources." Captain Veltar himself submitted detailed sensor readings and visual records. "The hybrid technology is definitely real." Vixstar stood and walked to the great window that looked out over the council chambers. Below, representatives from dozens of species debated policy and trade agreements, maintaining the careful balance that had kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. That balance was built on the understanding that each species had its place and role. The Vorthok provided wisdom and leadership. The Nexari offered advanced technology. The Zalani contributed biological expertise and peaceful exploration. And humans? Humans were supposed to be dangerous outsiders who stayed in their own corner of space and bothered no one. They were not supposed to be rescuing other species with impossible solutions. Sir Quintel said hesitantly, "There's more. We're receiving reports of similar incidents throughout the frontier regions." The aide activated a series of holographic displays showing incident reports from across the galaxy. Each one told a similar story. Ships in distress, calls for help that other species couldn't or wouldn't answer, and humans arriving to provide assistance. The merchant vessel Golden Current had been trapped in a radioactive nebula when their quantum drives failed. 3 different species had responded to their distress call, but all had retreated when they realized the rescue would require entering the dangerous gas cloud. The humans of the cargo ship Atlantic Star had not hesitated. Captain Nina Foster and her crew had rigged improvised radiation shielding and entered the nebula despite the risks to their own ship and health. They had successfully extracted all 17 Courtney crew members, suffering only minor radiation exposure in the process. The Courtney are baffled, Quintel reported. They keep asking why the humans risked themselves for strangers with no guarantee of payment. It goes against everything they understand about rational behavior. Another incident involved a Nexari science station that had lost navigation control while studying a dangerous star system. Their sophisticated computers had classified the situation as unsolvable. With too many variables and too much risk for a safe rescue attempt, a human exploration team led by Captain Robert Kane had found a solution within hours. Instead of trying to calculate a perfect approach, they had used a series of small course corrections and manual piloting to guide the station to safety. The Nexari scientists were amazed that such primitive methods had succeeded where their advanced systems had failed. "They're calling it adaptive problem solving," Quintel explained. "The humans don't try to find perfect solutions. They find working solutions and improve them as they go." The most dramatic rescue had occurred near the Spiral Arm border, where a Zalani colony ship carrying 3,000 passengers had encountered an unstable wormhole. Their navigation systems had been damaged, leaving them unable to plot a safe course through the spatial distortion. The human freighter crew of the Deep Explorer had worked for 3 straight days without sleep, using manual calculations and trilander methods to find a path through the chaotic space-time currents. They had guided the massive colony ship to safety just hours before the wormhole collapsed completely. 3,000 lives, Thexar said quietly, saved by a handful of humans who had no obligation to help. The pattern was clear and disturbing. Across the galaxy, humans were responding to emergency calls that other species ignored or couldn't handle. They were finding solutions to problems that conventional wisdom said were impossible, and they were doing it all without asking for anything in return. This behavior challenged everything the Galactic Council believed about civilization and progress. For thousands of years, galactic society had been built on the principle that advanced species were cautious, rational, and self-interested. They helped others when it was safe and profitable to do so, but they didn't take unnecessary risks for strangers. Humans were breaking all the rules, and somehow making it work. Dr. Amy Collins, now famous throughout the galaxy as the xenobiologist who had pioneered interspecies biomechanical integration, found herself invited to speak at the prestigious Galactic Science Consortium on Nexus Prime. Her presentation, titled Adaptive Cooperation, Human Responses to Crisis Situations, drew the largest audience in the consortium's history, standing before an auditorium filled with the galaxy's greatest minds. Collins felt nervous, but determined. She had a chance to change how the galaxy saw her species, and she wasn't going to waste it. "Honorable colleagues," she began, "I want to talk to you about the difference between impossible and untried." She activated a holographic display showing the hybrid biomechanical systems that now kept the Harmony song running better than ever. The audience murmured in amazement at the images of living tissue and mechanical components working together in perfect harmony. When we first encountered Captain Veltar's ship, every rule of engineering said that our technologies could not be combined. Mechanical and biological systems were too different, too incompatible. But we didn't see incompatibility. We saw an opportunity to try something new. An X-ray scientist in the front row raised a thin hand. "Dr. Collins, your species has a reputation for reckless behavior. How do you distinguish between innovation and dangerous experimentation?" Collins smiled. "That's a fair question. The difference is in the motivation. We don't take risks for the excitement of it. We take risks because someone needs help, and helping them is worth the danger." She switched to a new display showing rescue statistics from across the galaxy. The numbers were startling. In just 6 months, human ships had responded to over 200 emergency calls. Their success rate was 93%, far higher than any other species. "My colleagues ask why we do this," Collins continued. Why do we risk our ships and our lives for strangers? The answer is simple. Because we can, and because it's right. A Corthany trade representative stood up. Dr. Collins, my people are practical. We understand profit and loss, cost and benefit. What do humans gain from these rescue operations? Gain the knowledge that we helped someone who needed it, Collins replied. We gain experience solving problems we've never faced before. Gain friends and allies who trust us, because we've proven ourselves trustworthy. These may not be things you can measure in credits, but they have value. The presentation continued for 2 hours, with Collins answering questions about human psychology, rescue techniques, and the philosophy behind their approach to helping others. By the end, even the most skeptical audience members were reconsidering their assumptions about the dangerous Deathworlders. But the real change was happening throughout the galaxy as word of human reliability spread. Species that had once avoided human space began sending diplomatic missions. Trade negotiations that had been stalled for years suddenly moved forward as other civilizations realized that humans could be trusted partners. The Zilani were the first to propose formal cooperation agreements. Captain Veltar, now commanding a hybrid ship that was the wonder of his people, became an ambassador for human-Zilani friendship. His crew toured the galaxy, demonstrating the possibilities that opened up when different species worked together. Instead of staying apart, the Corthany, ever practical, began hiring human ships for dangerous rescue operations that their own vessels couldn't handle. They discovered that humans were not only brave and capable, but also surprisingly honest in their business dealings, even the proud. Nexari started consulting with human engineers when their sophisticated systems encountered problems that logic and calculation couldn't solve. They learned that sometimes the best solution wasn't the most elegant one, but the one that actually worked. The Galactic Council found itself facing pressure to formally recognize humanity as a full member species. The humans had proven themselves, not through conquest or technological superiority, but through consistent acts of courage and compassion. Counselor Dexter, despite his initial skepticism, became one of the strongest supporters of human membership. In his formal recommendation to the council, he wrote, "These beings from the death world called Earth have shown us that strength without compassion is mere brutality, while compassion without strength is merely wishful thinking. Humanity has both, and the galaxy is better for their presence." The vote was unanimous. 6 months after the rescue of the Harmony's song, Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of his transformed vessel and watched the stars wheel by. Through displays that showed information in ways no pure Zilani ship had ever been able to manage. His ship was no longer just alive. It was something entirely new. A perfect blend of biological intuition and mechanical precision. The bridge crew around him was no longer purely Zilani either. At the navigation station, a young Korthoni named Dexim worked alongside Kiravel, his people's natural talent for finding profitable trade routes, now serving the cause of galactic rescue operations. Near the science stations, 2 Nexari researchers collaborated with Zilani biotechnicians, their advanced computers working in harmony with organic neural networks. Most remarkable of all, 3 humans served as permanent crew members. Dr. Amy Collins had requested transfer to the Harmony Song to continue her research into biomechanical integration. Engineer Ryan Torres had stayed to help maintain the hybrid systems he had pioneered. Medic Susan Wright had discovered that her medical training worked just as well on alien patients as human ones. Captain Collins called out from her science station, "We're receiving a distress signal from the edge of the Andromeda approach. Long-range sensors show a ship of unknown design in serious trouble." Veltar moved to the communication station, his bare feet silent on the warm biodeck that now pulsed with both organic rhythms and the steady hum of mechanical systems. "What can you tell us about them? They're broadcasting on frequencies we've never seen before," Torres reported from his engineering console. "The signal is definitely artificial, but the technology is completely unfamiliar. Whoever they are, they're not from any known species." This was exactly the kind of situation the Unity's Dawn had been designed for. The ship, as Veltar had renamed his vessel after its transformation, represented something unprecedented in galactic history. It was a truly cooperative vessel, crewed by multiple species, and equipped with hybrid technology that could handle almost any emergency. The ship was also the flagship of a new organization that had grown out of the success of human rescue operations. The Galactic Emergency Response Coalition brought together volunteers from dozens of species, all trained in the human philosophy of helping first and asking questions later. "Set course for those coordinates," Veltar ordered. "Maximum speed. And send a message to Nexus Prime. Let them know we're responding to a first contact situation." As the Unity's Dawn jumped to faster, vanlight travel, Veltar reflected on how much had changed since that desperate day when his ship was dying in the void. The galaxy had become a smaller, friendlier place, where species that had once avoided each other now worked together as partners. The change had started with humans, but it hadn't stopped there. The Korthani had discovered that helping others in trouble often led to profitable long-term relationships. The Nexari had found that combining their logical approach with human intuition has produced better solutions than either method alone. The Zilani had learned that their biotechnology could be enhanced rather than contaminated by mechanical systems. Even the proud Vorthok had begun participating in rescue operations, their ancient wisdom proving valuable in situations that required careful diplomacy alongside quick action. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy thought about the word civilization. For thousands of years, being civilized had meant being safe, predictable, and careful. Now it meant being willing to help others, even when helping was difficult or dangerous. The Unity's Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the coordinates of the distress signal, and immediately the mixed crew sprang into action. The unknown ship was unlike anything they had ever seen, built from materials that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal while maintaining solid structure. "Life signs are weak but present," Wright reported from her medical station. "Whatever species this is, they're in bad shape. Atmospheric readings show their life support is failing. The ship appears to be damaged by some kind of energy discharge, added the Nexari scientist Quoven. Their power systems are operating at less than 10% capacity. Dexim looked up from his navigation console with excitement. Captain, I'm detecting something incredible. Ship isn't from our galaxy at all. Stellar positioning data in their computers shows they're from the Andromeda galaxy. Over 2 million light-years away. The implications were staggering. This was not just first contact with a new species, but with an entirely different galactic civilization. The beings aboard that ship had somehow traveled an impossible distance, only to find themselves stranded and dying in unfamiliar space. Dr. Collins Veltar said, "Prepare a boarding team. We're going to help them, just like the humans helped us." Within an hour, a mixed team of humans, Zalani, Korthani, and Nexari, had boarded the alien vessel. What they found challenged everything. They thought they knew about life and intelligence. The ship's crew consisted of beings that appeared to be made of living crystal, their bodies reflecting light in patterns that seemed to convey emotion and thought. They were beautiful and alien. Unlike any carbon-based life form anyone had encountered, the crystal beings, called themselves the Veilthara, had been exploring beyond their home galaxy when their ship encountered a massive energy storm. Damage had left them stranded, their crystalline technology slowly failing as they drifted further from any hope of rescue. Communication was difficult at first, but the diverse team aboard the Unity's Dawn brought different approaches to the problem. The Nexari provided translation computers. The Zalani offered empathic understanding. The Korthani suggested trade-based communication. And the humans simply started helping with repairs while talking constantly, assuming that universal gestures of aid would be understood. They were right. The Veilthara quickly realized that these strange organic beings were trying to help them, not harm them. Through a combination of mathematical symbols, energy patterns, and simple demonstration, basic communication was established. The rescue operation that followed required every technique the Coalition had learned over the past months. Zalani biotechnology proved surprisingly compatible with Veilthara crystal systems, both being based on living materials that could adapt and grow. Human engineering provided the mechanical support needed to stabilize the alien ship's structure. Korthani navigation skills helped plot a course back toward inhabited space. Nexari computers calculated the complex energy interactions needed to restore power to crystalline systems. But the real breakthrough came when the teams realized they could learn from the Veilthara as much as help them. The crystal beings had mastered technologies that no organic species had ever imagined, including methods for traveling between galaxies that made such journeys practical rather than impossible. They're explorers just like us, Collins told Veltar as they watched. The mixed teams working together to repair the alien ship. They came here to learn about our galaxy, to meet new forms of life, and share knowledge. The rescue took 5 days, but by the end, the Veilthara ship was not only repaired, but enhanced with hybrid technology that combined crystalline and biological and mechanical systems in ways that none of the species had thought possible, as the alien vessel prepared to continue its mission of exploration. The Veilthara leader, a magnificent being whose crystal body reflected light like a living prism, spoke to the rescue team through their newly established communication system. "We came to your galaxy expecting to find only primitive life." The translated words appeared on the displays. "Instead, we found something we thought impossible. Different forms of life working together as one people, sharing strength and knowledge freely. You have shown us a new way to explore the universe. You're welcome to join us," Veltar offered. "The galaxy is big enough for everyone. We can always use friends who understand that helping each other is the most important thing we can do." The Veilthara agreed to establish an embassy on Nexus's Prime, and to share their knowledge of intergalactic travel with the Galactic Emergency Response Coalition. In return, they would learn the human philosophy of cooperative rescue operations and carry those ideas back to their own galaxy. As the crystal ship departed for its continued exploration, Captain Veltar stood on his bridge, surrounded by crew, members from 5 different species, watching the alien vessel disappear into the starfield. The Unity's Dawn itself had become a symbol of what was possible when different peoples worked together, instead of staying apart. The communication console, chimed with an incoming message from Commander Jake Murphy, now Admiral Murphy, and head of the Coalition's human contingent. His ship, the New Frontier, was responding to another emergency call, this time from a species of aquatic beings whose underwater cities were threatened by seismic activity. "Any word from the Andromeda visitors?" Murphy asked over the communication. "Link, they're safely on their way," Veltar replied. "And they've promised to return with more of their people. It seems we're going to need to expand our definition of galactic civilization to include our neighbors from other galaxies as well." Murphy's laughter came through the speakers. "The more the merrier, Captain. The universe is a big place, and there's plenty of room for everyone who wants to help each other."